Yo, this about to be a fire live. Gonna have Ask Miss Cassandra come up in the building, who is a relationship coach and a man's advocate, and then align with Allison, who is a relationship expert as well, come up in the building. What up, Cassandra? Just hit that request to join live button, and I'm gonna bring you right up. Wow. Hope everybody's having a blessed day. It's about to be a very interesting and fire conversation. All right, let me hit this again. There we go.
Hey,
What up? What up? How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm trying to fix my. I'm so used to being, on
The top
in the,
end.
yeah. I'm trying to fix it. Hey, y'all, welcome. Come on in, y'all. How are you?
Right, blessing and progressing every day above ground is a good one for me. How about you?
Back, same here.
Hey, hey. So for my audience who may be unaware of who you are, could you give a quick synopsis of who you are, what it is that you do, and how you got started and what you do?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra. I go by Ask Miss Cassandra on Instagram. I'm a life and relationship coach and a men's advocate. And I really enjoy supporting men around being able to identify their emotions, establish boundaries with their partners, healing from childhood traumas and triggers, and learning how to process their triggers so that they are responding, not reacting, so that they can live out healthy relationships and maintain what we call masculine frame. So I really enjoy what I do, and how I got into it actually was I started out researching feminine energy. I was trying to figure out like how to not be in my masculine when I learned that I was being in my masculine. And in the process of me researching and having an understanding of being feminine and understanding how I wanted to show up in a soft way, I started to learn more about men, and I started to fall in love with men and masculinity and what it stood for. But then I also observed that there was a heavy gap in terms of resources. And what I mean by that was like there were like hundreds of feminine energy groups, but there weren't a lot of like masculine energy groups. There weren't a lot of groups that were talking to men about what it like the weight of the crown of being a king. No one was really talking about that. And so I'm looking at things from a social worker's eyes, right? The disparity. On one end, we have these high, supercharged, extremely powerful, weighty expectations of men, and the resources are like this much. Crazy. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm not finna complain. I'm finna help and be a men's advocate. So here I am.
Well, as a man, I definitely appreciate you being a man's advocate.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate that. And we're gonna have a special guest come up in this
At
live.
7 o'clock. Should we get 7?
Okay, that's perfect. So we're gonna rock out.
Yes.
So if you see me look down, it's only because I got a list of questions here that I want to ask you and everything, not because I'm distracted or uninterested.
Got you.
So to crack it off, how do you feel or how do you think that healing from past emotional wounds contributes to developing emotional intelligence in men?
So say that, run that one more time. It was a long question.
How do you think that healing from past emotional wounds contributes to developing emotional intelligence in men?
All right. That's a really good question. One of the things that I say is when a person really decides to grab the reins and take hold of their healing journey and process, if you haven't been on a healing journey and process, child, you know what that is. Every time you think you've done, you be like, there's more, right? This journey is not for the faint. It is 100% a marathon and 100% not a sprint. And when you make that self investment in yourself and you recognize the length of time it takes to heal from things, a couple of things happen that supports you in showing up in a healthy manner that helps in your relationships, which is you'll do your damnedest to not put somebody in a position to have to heal from something that you did. Because you already know, I don't want to spend 2 years talking about this because it's going to take 2 years talking about this. I don't want to do that. Two, it gives you compassion and it gives you bandwidth because you've given it to yourself. You have capacity to like allow for somebody to have their own journey, and you move in a space of trust, knowing that their space, their time, and their way and their flow it belongs to them. It's their journey to have. And then you just become a person that's able to come along for the ride. So what that means is you develop empathy of something that is the only thing. When somebody asks me, how do I know if he's a good man? How do I know if she's a good woman? There's only one word, and that's empathy. If a person can see things from another person's point of view in their shoes as them, not just like from their vantage point, no, like literally stand in their shoes, seeing it from their eye gaze as them. If you have the capacity to do that and see what things mean for them, and you're able to embody that and take that on and see it from that perspective and not trying to alter it, change it, shift it, or maneuver it, you're practicing empathy, and that's what that healing journey provides, and that makes you emotionally intelligent.
No, I think that that's good. And I remember just recently on Tuesday, I was talking to one of my clients, and this is his 1 year anniversary since his father passed. And
Wow.
his father was a very instrumental person in his life, and he had just met this young lady, and it was something like he didn't respond or something to a text message or something like that. But he told her what he was dealing with, like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm just dealing with, the emotions of my father's anniversary. And she just made it all about her. And I was like, bro, that is a red flag, brother, because you just meeting
Bingo.
her. So you can only imagine once you really get emotionally involved with this person, you're
Bingo.
probably only seeing the surface level of her self-centeredness. Because if she
Mm-hmm.
can't recognize that, okay, I should probably have empathy in this particular moment while he's going through this
Yeah.
time, that's a huge red flag. So I
Amazing.
agree completely. And then also, it healing from the past traumas, it allows us to not bleed on the people that didn't cut us. Because
I like
most
that.
of the times, and I always tell people, whether it's a man or a woman, if you got the attitude of, "I never let that happen to me," then what you're basically doing is making the person in your present pay for the mistakes of the person in your past. And it's
Correct.
like you're holding this person to a standard
Hostage.
that in your mind you wish you would have treated this person, but this person didn't do nothing to
100%.
you. That person actually did it. So I agree that healing allows you to, what's the quote saying, that you need to try to love like you've never been
Hurt
hurt
before.
before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gives us the greatest opportunity for success in relationships, is
Yeah.
actually healing, like you said, and it increases our emotional intelligence when we do it.
Totally.
Um, so with you also helping man kind of understand feminine energy a little bit,
Mhm.
could you share your insights on why it's important for men to understand feminine energy and how it can impact their relationships when they do?
Absolutely. So when you understand a thing, you won't try to change it. When you understand a thing, you will not try to change it. You will embrace it. When a man understands what feminine energy is and the distinction that it is from masculine energy, he will learn to create synergy with it, or simpatico, like my dad likes to say it, right? Where it's kind of like song and dance and movement and flow, as opposed to becoming frustrated. So, as an example, this is something that men tend to kind of kick themselves, in the head with, so to speak. So, on one hand, you'll hear a guy say something like, "Well, women are so emotional and men are logical, right? Like as if the logic is a bonus and a plus." But then when a woman is in her masculine, they'll say things like, "She's not soft. She in her masculine." Basically to say that she's void of those emotions, those things that make her soft, the things that make her appealing. And so what happens is submission is one of those things where you can't really control how it looks, right? So if I'm a mom, right, as a mom or as a parent, if I want my child to clean up, but my room is messy, like submission is really about following like what we're doing as a family, not necessarily what you're telling me to do. We respond to like the energetic pull and what we're doing or not doing. And so if a husband or a man is telling a woman that she must be logical, and he shows up logical a lot, and he's devoid of emotions, he's not addressing her emotions, not creating space for her emotions, she too begins to model that. And what that looks like is a rigid version of a woman, because we're not like hairless versions of men. We're different. And then soon, when he's craving that emotional connection and intimacy, she's unable to provide it because it hasn't been modeled. So when a man understands feminine energy and she is emotionally flooded, right, which is one of the consequences that women experience due to hormones, flow, and all these things, he will learn to respond versus react. to her emotional flares. And over time, just like anything else, she too will learn to not react to her emotions. She will respond, which looks like reflection. She'll go into her quiet space and think about what she wants to say or what upset her. And then when she poses it or brings it to her man, it's more well thought out with her emotions still present. So that experience that a man is longing for, which is a feminine woman that's reflective versus reactive, is something that happens over time when he understands on the front end how he gets to show up in his masculine frame. So that's jargon for just being tender but firm, listening, as opposed to changing her and having these superficial, surface level conversations like, y'all want me so emotional, y'all want so emotional, this don't make no sense. And that's not leadership because it's not a compass or a guide. You feel me?
I I agree completely, and I always tell a lot of my male friends and a lot of clients that you're saying you want a feminine woman, but yet and still you almost punish her for when she gets into her feminine energy. So,
Correct.
and this is something that I had to learn. So this I'm like new in this space, like around like 2 years or so. So but before I remember, I would used to always get so frustrated at women. I couldn't handle crying very well. So when a woman would like cry and get sad and all that, I would be like, okay, something's wrong. What's the issue? And then I'm immediately trying to solve the issue. And then when the issue is solved, I'm like, why are you still crying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know how to handle that. And then it dawned on me was just like, well, it's really masculine to just kind of like solve a problem, be over it. Like, so you really got to let her be feminine if you're saying you want a feminine woman. And so many times, like men typically want their woman to be damn near like a man in some aspects. And then women typically want their man to be like a woman in some aspects.
Yes.
Like, so a woman will constantly just want to, just like a man, to just be so talkative, like she talks with her friends. And a lot of times, that's not how men really operate and everything. And a man is just want his woman to just, all right, the problem is solved. It shouldn't be no crying at it.
Right.
And you
And
got to
don't bring
learn,
it
like you
back
said,
up.
facts. And you got to learn how to create the space for the woman to be able to just embrace her emotions. And that was something that I actually had to learn. Okay, when she's crying, don't try to. Most of the time, I ain't even gonna cap, fellas. You ain't even got to solve anything. A gem that one of my mentors gave me was when a woman is crying, ask her, babe, do you need me to solve or do you need me to listen?
Correct.
90% of the time, she's just gonna say, I need you to listen. And when you just listen to her and reassure her and just, rub her on her back, kiss her on her forehead, tell her, just show
Right.
empathy. Most of the time, after like 20 or 30 minutes, she just naturally starts feeling better on her
Yes.
own. You didn't have to do anything but just be there in a supportive role. So I agree wholeheartedly with you.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the other things I want to stress and add is if a woman is crying with you, consider that honor. There's trust, right? When a woman is like talking a lot, consider that honor because there's trust. Get worried when she's not crying, when she's like hardened and non-communicative. That's when you have a problem. But if it ain't that, then consider that honor. So I think
Fact that it's a
excellent.
safe
Yeah.
space that you created
Yes.
for her to feel that way.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Facts. I think that that's good. What are some effective strategies men can use to heal from their past relationship traumas in your experience?
Yeah. So when I'm working with gentlemen around emotional traumas, I have two tools that I designed myself that I support men in being able to recall things that they've been through because this is such a heavy topic. I shy away from these things because, as you know, Chris, once you get into the healing space, there's a lot of responsibility, even though it's not your fault, right? And sometimes it can come across as blame, and I like to hold a lot of like tenderness and compassion for people who are processing their trauma, especially things that happened in their childhood that they could not control. But basically, in short, and in a way of like still trying to maintain compassion, but also being forthcoming, there are two tools that I utilize, and one of those tools is having a gentleman go through each decade of his life and kind of run through some of the top memories that he's had, even if things that he feels like he's been over, like that don't bother me anymore. And it's a template that I designed, and so we begin to then look for patterns. And a lot of times guys catch it themselves without even me mentioning it. They'll be like, damn, I realized a lot that the word betrayed came up a lot. damn, is that why I'm defensive? Like they'll ask a question like, is that why I do this? Is that why I push women away? Like the wheel in their brain begins to turn because healing can only occur at the base of where you are. So if you are in a space of survival, healing cannot occur because you're already in survival, which is already a protective mode. So then there's no point of having healing because the survival mechanism has already kicked in to provide safety. So it's going to override the process of healing because you're already in that space. But when you're in a calm environment, you have capacity to lend over to the process of healing, which takes some thinking and some considerations and to recognize. And this is the thing. And I hope that you guys that are watching it don't take this the wrong way because I really am trying. I don't mean any harm. But it is this. In that which I interpret, I become the interpretation. It's not always about what happened, it's about how I saw it. And that's a tough pill to swallow because I am the observer of my reality. Meaning, 100 people could have gone through this very exact same thing, and there will be at least 50 different outcomes.
Facts.
So I am the one that has made this observation. I am the one who interpreted it this way. And I am the one who assigned this experience as betrayal. I did that. They did not betray me. I interpreted that as betrayal. And every time in my life I catch a whiff of betrayal that even resembles that from my past, I've utilized this mechanism to confront them as a force field analysis. I'm coming against it with this thing, and that is shutting down. So once we are able to identify their core wounds and we figure out their core strategy on how they manage their wounds, that's when I begin to teach emotional regulation. So when the trigger pops up, they identify that they're triggered, and then I show them the cycle of getting through all the way until they get to what I call the Sabbath, which is an emotional place of rest. And when he's able to consistently establish that place of rest after he expresses a trigger, he's able to hold and maintain frame for other women.
No, I think that's powerful, and that's similar to Jordan Peterson's self-authoring program. Are you familiar with that?
No. I know who Jordan
So,
Peterson is, and I love him,
man,
but I don't
and
know.
he got his program called Self-Authoring. I did it when I was 28 years old, and it was probably one of the most impactful things along my healing journey. Basically, what he has you do is break your life up into 7 different chapters, and for each chapter, he has you identify 6 deeply emotionally impactful events that happen in each of those different chapters, each of those different time frames. And you know it's a deeply emotionally impactful event where if you still think about the particular memory, it still brings up a negative feeling in your nervous system. And so he'll have you so then you got 42 different deeply emotionally impactful things that have happened throughout your whole life. Then it'll have you just start at the first one and write about it. So just not how it impacted you, but just give a description of the event and go from 1 to 42. Then you start right back at number 1. And now he'll have you start analyzing the experience. So how did it make you feel about yourself? How did it make you feel about other people? How did it make you feel about your future? Does it make you feel you could trust? And so forth. And you do that for 1 through 42. Then he'll have you start at number 1 again and analyze it from a different frame. And the more you keep going through that process, by the end of it, you'll notice that you can talk about these things and it doesn't affect your nervous system at all.
Yes, it dissolves 100%.
Because that's the reason why most of the things impact us is because we haven't had time to actually process the experience. Our mind and our brain really just wants to know why this thing particularly happened, how to avoid it happening in the future, a healthy meaning that we can actually assign to the actual situation. Because most of the time kids are great observers but terrible interpreters, and because our brain isn't fully developed, the meaning that we give to certain situations are very limiting and very self-destructive to us. So if we don't take time to actually reflect on those particular meanings and give a different meaning to that situation, then we'll keep being limited.
Yes.
Another reason why we give improper meaning to certain situations, and like you said, 100 people could experience something and 50 different meanings will come from that, depending on how they actually look at it, is because we all take in billion bits of information per second. Billions of bits of information per second. but consciously we're only able to actually pay attention to around 2,000 bits of information per second. That's why, even though you're listening to me, you're not really thinking about, your feeling, your clothes touching your skin. You're not thinking about the sound of your air conditioning. You're not thinking about the sound of cars driving by. You're not thinking about maybe your kids, a TV that's going on in the other room, a fan that's going on,
Right.
animals that's outside. It's all these different sounds that we kind of tune out. So to not get the brain overwhelmed, every brain does this. We delete, distort, and generalize. So we'll delete out information and we'll just tune in to what's actually important. And so the issue with that is that since we all take in subconsciously the same billion bits of information, but we're all only paying attention to 2,000 bits of information, the 2,000 bits of information that I'm consciously paying attention to while me and Cassandra experience the same event is different than the 2,000 bits of information that she pays attention to. So therefore, that's why we can walk away and be like, that's what you got from that experience? I got something completely different. Well, it's about what we tuned into. Subconsciously, we all take in all the information, but we will get overwhelmed if we took it all in consciously. So that's why the 2,000 bits of information that I pay attention to is different than the 2,000 bits of information you pay attention to. And so we got to go in, and that's why the subconscious is so powerful, because it still remembers everything. And when you can go back and reflect on those past memories, now you can give your conscious awareness to different 2,000 bits of information that can help you get a different meaning from that situation.
Absolutely. 100%.
So now in regards to healthy relationship habits,
Yes.
what habits do you recommend men develop for healthier and more emotionally intelligent relationships?
So the first habit to take to establish is the habit of being with yourself, right? So I think most people would agree with that. And I don't think that necessarily that guys, I don't find that guys necessarily have a challenge with that like the way that women do, to be honest with you. And I think that it's a little bit different. Um, but I think sometimes what happens with women is that women tend to sometimes pour out a lot. And I think that sometimes men kind of like will dissociate from themselves. Whereas women, they disassociate, but in the sense of sometimes pouring into somebody else or something else external to them. Whereas men kind of like shut down and shut out a little bit, like they'll check out a bit, right? And so I encourage men to kind of like tune in and to check in and to become more present, because at the end of the day, a healthy relationship requires energy, and that's what your presence is. And men have a hard time accepting, like when a man is confronting with himself and he's disassociating from himself, oftentimes men, it's interesting. As I'm speaking right now, I'm having like this epiphany, which is this. In the context of work, right? I find that men will like inflate their capacity and their abilities, right? Like in work, like I could do this and I could do that. Like they'll bang on their chest about how great they are. Whereas women will sometimes downplay it. They're a little too shy to like explain it. But in the context of an intimate relationship, a lot of times men don't feel like they're worthy enough or they're good enough. Whereas women, on the other hand, think that they are the prototype of woman. Like as if any man could win with me, right? Like it's like, come on, mama. Who told you?
Facts. Even if she's completely delusional, they believe that. You're right. You're
Like,
right.
who told you that? Who told you was the prototype of a wife? Everybody don't want you, you know? And so when guys struggle with self-worth sometimes and they feel like, I don't know if I'm good enough for her, or I don't know if I can do this husband thing, um, they have a that she really just wants him. Because he already is checking out for himself. He already doesn't even want to be with himself because he's already checked out. And it's hard for man to wrap his brain around, like, what about me could you possibly want to tune into? Like, what is it? I like what this? And the answer is yes. And what she's looking for, she's craving for is his time. She's craving for his voice. She's craving for his advice in terms of him being a compass and a guide. And all of those things point to energy. So energetically, a man needs to practice being present because that's what's gonna be required of him as he shows up in a relationship.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think one of the reasons why women have the ultimate confidence and why men sometimes suffer in it, and I always tell women, because women tend to think that all men are just out here fucking and all that. And I'm just like, fam, y'all got to understand that that's not the case. Like, women are attracted to around like 30% of the men. So those 30% of the men, yeah, got options, but most men are not out here just having a lot of
Banging.
sexual partners. But women believe that because women can just always have a sexual partner. That's not the case for men. A woman can always find, now if it's the man you want or not, that's a whole different scale. But the point is that you can always find a sexual partner damn near on
On
command.
command.
That's
I can
not
walk
the case for
down
a man.
Flatbush right now. 10 guys right now.
Facts. You can just go in your phone and that friend, that guy that's just acting like a friend. And if you just be like, hey, I'm horny right now, you'll see that he's just been a sniper the whole time, waiting on this one moment for your weakness to just pull the trigger. And
Right.
that's why, male friendships is like a little cap. But
Right. Right.
like, so that's why a lot of the women's confidence be high, even if it's
Yeah.
delusional. And I always tell them a lot of times they build their confidence based upon men that they're not interested in. And then they bring that confidence to the men that they're actually interested in. And that's why sometimes the dude could just be like, yo, you need to relax a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
her confidence is so inflated based upon all the guys
Sure.
that wants to have sex with her that she's not interested in. But she'll
And
take all your energy just to build her
yeah,
confidence for sure.
and I'll also add that society has also done a really good job of helping women to believe that that's all that men are interested in and that's all that men do, right? Like the barbershop talks when women try to talk about romance and men try to give us a heavy dose of reality. It a lot of times involves men having conversation around the capacity of having sex without emotional intimacy. So women really are believing that, well, dang, if emotional intimacy isn't really there and women are just out here giving it away like they say, then maybe you're part of that group. It's
That's why
just
I always tell women, and same thing for men, it's just two types of people. So you got the Pookies and the Ray Rays that is only interested in the fun and the sex and all that, but then you got the man that's interested in a wife.
right.
And that's what I'm saying as far as like the women tend to listen to the Pookies and the Ray Rays, the guys that's just interested in the
Because
sex, and
they
then they bring
loud.
that confidence to them. They are loud, and men who are interested in a wife definitely need to have louder voices for sure.
Yes.
I agree with that. But it's always two different types of men. Same thing when it comes to women. There's two different types of women. There's a woman that just wants to have the fun, and there's a woman that's actually looking
Been
to
no-
have a family and be a wife. So you gotta recognize what you want to be, and then live with the consequences. And then you gotta pay attention to what you want to listen to. And in regards to men being in solitude as far as a healthy habit for relationships, I agree with that. But I don't want men to misinterpret that. Being in solitude does not mean being alone, but constantly on the game, constantly looking for distractions, constantly just smoking weed, constantly just drinking, constantly. What she's saying is being in tune with your body and having alone time with no stimuli, where you're comfortable just sitting in your own emotions and recognizing what comes up. Because the
yeah.
more you are okay in solitude, I believe the healthier you will actually be in a relationship, to her point. But if
Yeah.
in your solitude, all you're doing is looking to distract yourself, then that can lead to unhealthy tendencies in regards to a relationship. Because, like she said, it's really the presence that's needed to have a healthy relationship.
Yes. It's energy. It's kind of like, if you're on a date, and your man is on his phone, like to him, he's just like, we were on a date. And to her, she's like, we weren't. And logically it was like, yeah, we were on a date, we went out, I picked you up, I did this and did that, and it's just like she didn't get your energy. So a man wants to practice being present into the task that he's in and provide his energy to it, right? Like men can also practice men are really good at compartmentalizing, but what I mean by that in this case is when you're at work, be at work. When you're with your woman, be with your woman. She will respect that. It might annoy her, right? Because any woman who is in love, I'm going to tell you the truth, would love to be her man's distraction, right? Any woman who's in love with a man, she would love to be her man's distraction. And when a man has his boundaries, it can annoy her, right? Like you watch a football, she gonna come around with a t-shirt and the panties on, looking unsuspecting. You want some popcorn? You want something to drink? She knows what she's doing, right? Like these things are like, those are animalistic instincts that'll kick up into gear. But in terms of like being present, that's when he gets to have those conversations. Baby, when I'm at work, I'm at work. But when I'm with you, I don't bring work here. I'm all yours. And what allows me to do that is because when I'm at work, I'm all there.
Facts. And that's what causes a lot of issues and arguments in the home, even in parenting, is when you bring your work home. And that's to why I always tell, what up, Scott? I always tell my clients as well that you got to be productive when you're at your work time. Because if you don't finish what you need to do and then you come home and you're just all preoccupied, and then your
Oof.
woman or your child tries to get your attention, it will lead to a little aggression. It will lead to a little frustration. And before you know it, now you got problems in the home strictly because you didn't do what you were supposed to do in the time that you
Yeah.
had it. That's why boundaries are so important. Setting around Darren Hardy calls them jam sessions, where the people at your work know not to just come in with random distractions. People know not to knock on your door. Hey, I need your help with this. Hey, yo, for this 90-minute period, I'm locked in. I'm not on my phone. I'm not talking to anybody else. I'm
Powerful.
locked in on a specific
Powerful. Yeah.
task so I can get this work
Powerful.
done. So therefore, when I get
Yeah.
home, I can be
Yeah.
present, like you said, because without the presence, it definitely causes issues in the home.
Yes. Yes. Hey, what's up, Earl? Absolutely, 100%. It's
Somebody
crucial.
said purpose versus preference is a major problem with dating in the 20th century. I definitely agree. Most people aren't dating with a purpose. Most people are just really just animalistic and just having fun and not really thinking. But that's why I also said it's two different types of people. You got the people that's definitely thinking about, yo, I want a family. Yo, I want to have a purpose. Yo, I want to have structure. Yo, I want to have a direction when it comes to this. And then you got the people that's only not thinking about the future at all. They're just thinking about the present moment. So you got to know who you are and what you're actually trying to do, and then know the person that you're with
Right.
and see whether it aligns. But another issue that comes is that, and this is my perspective, but I see this all the time, where most people just get sexually attracted, then they have sex, and then they get sexually attached. And then from the attachment, that is when they try to form a relationship, and the relationship falls apart because of character issues. But we never vetted the character issues in the beginning. We just got sexually aroused, sexually
Mm-hmm.
attached, and then from there we're just like, oh, let's try to make this relationship work. But in actuality, what that should have happened before the sex, that should have happened before the attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Because once we have cognitive biases that goes on, and once I'm fond of you, unconsciously I will distort all of your flaws
Correct.
because I want to stay in good relationship with you because I
Correct.
like you. So
Yes.
we got to actually make sure that we are vetting a person before our cognitive biases kicks in. Because once you sexually like a person and their sex is good to you, let me tell you, you are not about to be looking at that person objective at all.
Facts.
Attachment versus alignment. Ooh, facts. That's bars. That's a whole live right there. I'm gonna
Bars.
steal that. I'm gonna screenshot that real quick because I love that. Uh, so when it comes to attracting a compatible partner, in your experience, how does personal growth and healing influence the type of partner that someone attracts?
Let me tell you something. There is no greater way to change how you pick people than healing. Because one of the things that you'll realize on your healing journey when you get to a certain point is that unhealed people really think that they're healed. There's no convincing them. You, you literally could tell somebody what you just said, right? What you just said right now, that makes all the sense in the world to me. You tell somebody else that's not healed what you just said, and they're going to say something like, well, how do I get into a relationship unless if I have sex with her first? Why am I going to be a boyfriend to her? Because there's actually a reel that went out of a girl and a guy. I'm coming close to the camera, y'all, because I want you to hear me. I want to be mad annoying, right? Like this guy and this woman is having a conversation, and she is telling him, I don't have sex until I'm in a monogamous relationship. And he goes, well, how do we start the relationship unless we have sex first? And he is dead set on it. There's no convincing him at all. He's looking at her like she is deluded. She hasn't even mentioned marriage. Like, what is he going to do? Mind blown if he finds out people are waiting until marriage to have sex.
And that's why self-worth and self-love, to your point that you said earlier, is so important because when we don't have that sense of self-love or self-worth, out of fear of losing that person, we'll cave in on our values and give in to the sex as opposed to standing our ground. And that goes into a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. We feel like that, hey, what's the chances of me finding somebody else out there? What's the chances of me finding somebody else that I
Yeah.
like, that I find is attractive, that got a good job, that got a good career, that got a good social status, or whatever it is? And we fear losing this person, so we'll compromise our own standards and then regret it 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line, whatever it is. But in actuality, we've seen the red flags from the jump, but our self-worth wouldn't allow us to maintain our standard.
Everyone thinks they are healed until they're triggered or haven't dealt with unresolved trauma. Absolutely. And before I even tackle that piece, I just wanted to stress to your former question, which is that one of the things, so like when your healing journey occurs and the way that you mature through your dating and how you interact with people, is that you should be developing some standards and some principles that's going to have you unwavering, because on your healing journey you're going to recognize that a lot of things will catch you by surprise. You'll have really great days, and then some days you'll be so low. It's like a rise and a fall, and you're fighting for stability. You really just want to be okay most days. You really, really want to be happy most days. But when you really do that shadow work, when you really start confronting the multiple versions of you that you had to be, the masks that you had to put on at work, the mask that you were with your parents, your siblings, your kid, your friends, on the block, off the block, at school, code switch, and you're confronting all these aspects and you're working to integrate yourself into one whole being, you realize that you're going through a lot of motions. So when you get through the canal of your healing journey, you want to come out with some strong standards so that you're not wearing multiple masks anymore. So one of the things, how that shows up in the context of a relationship in terms of like reacting versus responding, and this is an example that I use a lot, which is getting my lick back, right? What if the person that you're with does something to you that offends you or hurts you? Are you going to get your lick back? Are you the kind of person that is tempted to give a person a teaspoon of their own medicine? Are you the kind of person that feels like I have to shame this person so that I can bring them under submission of what they did to me or how they made me feel? Because that's what the red pill community does. They shame women. They shame women who speak ignorant ways and how they confine men to their finances. And their goal is to shame her, to belittle her, because they want to put her in her place because she thinks that she's such the prize. I gotta prove to her that she's trash. If that's your modus operandi, if that's your MO, right, then you are controlled by somebody else's unhealed behavior. That means you have no standard. So to give this example a little bit more, make it tangible so that y'all could feel me right now, right? If I'm dating someone and they cheat on me, I don't need to cheat on them back for them to know how it feels. Why? Because I have my own standard around infidelity. Nobody can make me, turn me, twist me, force me, contort me into giving them what they gave that relationship. Never mind me, that
You're not
relationship. We're going to
gonna
confront
become the person that hurt you.
that part. You have to have strong, that's how you know when your healing journey, I won't say it's complete, but it's starting to form and become solid. When you come out with standards and principles that you're self-governed by, right? So I'm a kind of woman that, listen, it's cuffing season, y'all. I've been asked out, just so y'all know, yes, I am a life and a relationship coach, but I am single, right? I haven't been out on a couple of dates. I've been asked out on dates with a couple of guys. I'm not trying to fold. I know what season it is. It's cold outside. I want to cuddle. I want to hug. I want somebody hugging up on me, but I have standards. So I have told people respectfully, hell no, I'm not going out on a date with you. Because I know you're trying to go. I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to be that. I don't want that, right? And so I'm not going outside right now because it's cuffing season and it's cold outside. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of, right? So my standard is so stern around me making sure that I keep to my standard, that I'm not going to allow my environment, external temptation, and even weaknesses, right? I'm allowing myself to be human, to not fold like a chair.
No, facts. And I think that that's important. I think people need to put, like you said, boundaries in place to recognize when they could have moments of weaknesses in their standards to ensure that their standards are upheld. I think that that's wise and I think that's smart. And that's the importance of having support people around you that recognize the higher version of yourself that you want to manifest, and then that can hold you to that and that you can talk to in times of weakness. I'm in the spirit of celibacy right
Yeah.
now because I want to attract a wife.
Yes.
And so when it gets times of where I have a female friend, her name is Amber, and she hasn't had sex in years or whatever. So I'll reach out to her like, yo, when you get super horny, what do you do? Because it's on me right now. Like, I need to figure out
Yeah.
yo, get in the cold shower, yo, do this, yo, do that, or whatever it is. And then it's just like, all right, bet, all right, I'm cool now. Because otherwise, yo, you could succumb to the temptations of the flesh. And
Yeah.
Tune 7364 says sexual compatibility is important. Granted, sexual compatibility is important, but like it says in The Way of the Superior Man by David Deity, he says that um, a man got to choose what type of woman that he wants. You can have the woman that will fulfill all of your sexual pleasures and desires at the highest level, or you can have the woman that's going to fulfill her wifely and motherly roles at the highest desire. Most of the time, you are not about to have both. It's not saying that your wife and like the wife and the mother is not about to be able to fulfill you sexually, but we're just talking about the greatest sexual experiences. You got to choose what you want. The wife and the mother that's really in tune with being a wife and a mother, she ain't got time and the energy to be just trying to fulfill all your wildest sexual desires. And honestly, if you really think about it, do you even
Yeah.
want your wife doing that stuff? So you got to be mindful as far
Right.
as what is the priority. And if the sex, that's why I said earlier, you got to choose what you want. Do you want the wife and the mother, or do you want the sexual experiences? Then you got to just live with the results. That's when healing journey begins looking like wholeness and facts. And there's another whole thing where you could look healed while you're single, and then you get into a relationship and now you're held accountable to somebody else. And that's when all these triggers start to come up. That's when you got to actually realize, like, that's why I believe that really true healing can only happen while you're in a relationship. Yes, if you're single, definitely engage in your healing process, but you will have a whole bunch of blind spots because it's hard to see the picture while you're standing in the frame. And then once you actually heal yourself, that's when you're in a position to, or when you're in a relationship, that's when you'll recognize the real healing that needs to begin. Because once you're held accountable to another person, and you got to deal with this person asking you questions, you got to deal with this person
Amen.
giving you criticism, you got to deal with this person having standards as well. You got to deal with this person, hey, I don't like being talked to like that. You got to deal with this person, hey, I want this to actually happen. And you start feeling all these different emotions inside. That's when you'll actually recognize how far you are along your healing journey.
Yes.
Too blessed that she's been celibate 5 years. Lord have mercy. Good job. Hopefully, it don't take me 5 years to find my wife. Lord have mercy. Um, that makes sense. Does that lend to a reason for poly? I don't understand. If you can give me a little bit more
I'm
context.
wondering if that comment is basically coming off of like if your wife is not going to do certain things, like could you have the woman that's going to do all the freak stuff and then have the wife.
Bro, if you know what it takes to really maintain one woman, bro, it's like that poly thing. People can, man, I had a woman that was trying to even get me to do poly because she grew up in a poly environment. And I'm
Hmm.
like, that ain't my wave. I don't know. I ain't the person to ask on that. I'm completely against that. It's hard enough to maintain one woman if you're really trying to
I
maintain at the
feel
highest level. I don't know about trying to do multiple.
right. I feel like when people talk about how men need more than one woman, I'm
What
like,
up,
yeah,
Allison? Hit the request to join live button. We'll bring you right up. My fault.
I feel like that's why when guys talk about how they need more than one woman and so on and so forth. I feel like that's why God gave a woman a cycle, because there's four versions of us. Every week I'm a different woman. You got four and one, bro. What you need 8 more?
Bruh. And I'm telling you, you don't even want them type of problems, man. Really being in tune. What, man? All right, look, I ain't seen a nigga do it successfully yet. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. And we talking about long term. So yeah, you might do it for a season. Yeah, you might get it off for a summer and all that. But I'm talking about long term. We seen the finesse 2 times. Like, yeah, I got 3 girlfriends. You see what he dealing with now. That nigga stressing now because he got all these women pregnant and now they all separated and he got a whole hell of trouble.
That
So
and I'm just so curious about that, because I feel like if society feels like fatherhood and a man being present is so important. What's up,
what
Al?
up?
Hey,
It's so important. Then how would they manage to be a present father? You know what I'm saying? If he has to be in multiple households, you know what I'm saying?
Facts. Facts. Let me tell you, me and my son's mom separated October of last year, and that is a whole headache of itself because she got our son living with another dude and he's there half the week and all that. That's a whole fucking headache. I tell niggas, bro, you better try to
Yeah,
keep your family together. I tell all my friends, look, it's better to try to be together and make it work than the separation because y'all don't even want to deal with the shit I got to deal with now. So
right.
try to figure it out and make it work. Um, in regards to communication,
Yes.
Allison, I'm interested in your perspective on this. Can you provide tips on how men can communicate their emotional needs effectively in relationships without feeling vulnerable or without feeling like vulnerable is weakness? Nick Cannon, Lord have mercy. That's a whole nother nigga. That's
so the question is,
Well, where she went?
I'm not sure. It says she was unable to join even though she was on with us. Maybe she has some connectivity issues and she'll be right back with us. But in the meantime, I'll just tie it to you. How can a man express his emotional needs to a woman without feeling like vulnerability is weak?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, once a man gets really
There she
comfortable,
go.
there we go. When she comes through, I'll say my piece and then Allison can kind of chime in. I think it's really important for a man to be able to again have his okay.
Oh,
I
there
don't know
she
if you
go.
want to go ahead. We lost you for a second. I don't know if you want to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just saying that this is without the gentleman feeling like he is being too vulnerable or that he's being weak.
Yeah, without feeling like he's being weak for being vulnerable and emotionally expressing his needs.
Hmm. So what I would recommend to that gentleman is to start with the soft stuff. Start with the easy stuff, the things that you are not too concerned about. And what would that look like? That might start with, you babe, I like when you, I don't know, use your nose to tickle my neck when we in bed, right? Something that's not too like it's not gonna be the
Right.
deepest of the
I like
deep. It's
that.
not gonna be thrown. No one's gonna say, and that's why you the type of dude who like right? Like it's not that big of a deal. So start with something small and let's see how she uses and she takes that information. Does she then execute on the things that you like? Does she tease you about
I
it,
like that.
dismiss you? Does she dismiss you and say, oh no, baby, I ain't doing all that? Like give her something, give her a task, give her something that's small and see if she potentially weaponizes it, dismisses it, or actually does the thing, right? And then you build over time. It's a trust issue. The fear is I don't trust that this woman is going to take this information, take these feelings, take this thing and use it appropriately. Is she going to internalize it and then potentially change the way that she approaches me? Is she going to use this against me in an argument? Like, right? So this is a trust issue. So you're building trust over time. The way that you build trust over time is you give this person something small, you see how they react and they behave, and then over time you build up to. And if they give you an indication that they can't be trusted because now they're using a smaller weapon that's not that big of a deal against you, well, see, now I see why your mother said that you just like your daddy because you every time you come home you leave your socks on the floor,
Right.
right? So now you gave them something, now they've used it against you, now you know that this is not a safe space. What I would also say is that a lot of it has to do with the individual. So it may not be the woman or the partner that you're with that's the problem. You see vulnerability as a weakness. That means that there's some work that you should be doing in order for you to change your mindset around it and recognize and trust that you made a good choice in this human being. Did you vet them appropriately? Have you been through things in your life and seen evidence that they are a trustworthy human being? And then you've made the right choice and you can begin to share slowly over time so you can feel more confident that when you do get to the bigger stuff, then it's something that she can handle and wouldn't use against you or anything of the sort.
I think that that's beautiful as far as vetting this person and then also recognizing that if a man views vulnerability as weakness, that's probably tied to some unresolved trauma that he has to deal with, that he has to heal because he is bleeding on a person that didn't cut him at that point. If the person you're with haven't done anything to make you feel vulnerability is weakness, but you're projecting that onto that person, then you definitely got to deal with whatever that was, whether that was in your childhood, whether that was in a previous relationship, then deal with that as opposed to projecting that on to the person you're dealing with now. I think that that is amazing advice.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Cassandra?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was gonna go, which is, this goes back to a man having his own standards. Have your own standards, have your own principles. If you know that you've come to the point of learning that vulnerability is key and there's strength in your vulnerability, then you're gonna have to go ahead and do the brave thing and trust that if you find that you cannot be brave in your vulnerability with a woman, that's not a situation that you necessarily have to fix and adjust and tinker with. That might be a situation when you recognize this is where I execute my boundaries and I either will have a conversation or I just remove myself from this dynamic because
Mhm.
of the maturity that I require now as a man is not present with her. And I'm not here to like guide somebody on their spiritual, healing emotional journey, right? Like she got to go and do that on her own, that sort of thing. That's what I would say. By the way, y'all, as you guys can see, Chris has pinned that we have a workshop, a virtual workshop. Myself, Allison, Chris is going to be there. Also, Imani, who is not here with us right now. But go ahead and click the link in our bio. It is an affordable virtual workshop where you'll be able to share your insights and get feedback on your own personal experiences. So make sure y'all click the link on there and join us there, because we're going to get really into the nitty gritty and on your own personal experiences as well.
No, facts. And definitely, if y'all like this conversation or any of the topics that came up, y'all definitely want to tune into that workshop, because we're going to go way deeper
Yes.
on this. And then Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all four of us will be on a live together as well, having conversations pertaining to what will be discussed at that workshop. So if y'all like these topics and conversations, click the link in the bio and definitely tune in next Monday as well. Let me ask, and this can go for either one of y'all who wants to answer. How can men balance their masculine energy with understanding and embracing feminine energy in their relationship?
So I'll go first. So I don't necessarily think that there's a balance, but there's a bit more of harmony. And it's when you fundamentally understand what each energy provides, you can decide and be intentional about how I want to show up, right? So as an example, if I know that a baby is soft and cuddly, I'm not really looking to be hard with this baby, right? I'm looking to be tender, right? Meaning I'm not so soft, I'm not so lazy, I'm not so worried. I'm present, but I'm also soft and nurturing, right? That's a bit of tenderness. So once you understand the context of what you're doing, then you know what energy you want to bring to it. That's why they have football players do ballet, because even though football is a hard contact sport, it requires you to be light on your feet, right? And ballet is still something that requires a sense of discipline, which is masculine, but it's executed in a feminine way. That's an example. Ballet is a nice example of a harmony between masculine and feminine energy, because ballet is a discipline. It requires focus, but it's also artistic and light and flowery, and there's a lot of flow. So they have football players join in ballet sometimes so that they can learn how to be light on their feet and flow and move, and their agility is different, right? So when you know the outcomes that you want, you're able to discern what kind of energy you want to start out with. So that's how you'll learn what to do. So even when and I'll close on this point and then pass it to Allison. Even with women, when women talk about being in their feminine, sometimes women, when they want to be in their feminine, they think that it requires them to like lean back and do nothing all day. Like, that's worthless. You know what I'm saying? Like, feminine energy, any energy all on its own is dangerous. A feminine energy is to receive. That means you're not doing anything. That's dangerous. If you are a businesswoman, you are in your masculine. You know what I'm saying? You're in your masculine. And so we need to understand that it's not, feminine and masculine energies are not distinct in terms of like being attached to any specific gender. This is just language that we use as human beings so that we can speak commonality to what we want to talk about. It's not that serious. People just try to drag it, you know what I mean? But that's what I would say.
Facts. Allison, what's your thoughts?
You gotta bring back the question, because my girl Cassandra was spitting so much that I was thinking about football hitting hard, and now I'm thrown off.
So it's basically saying, how can men balance their masculine energy with understanding and embracing feminine energy in their relationship?
Yeah. So similar to Cassandra's point, we all have masculine and feminine energy, right? So again, I wouldn't word it as balancing their masculine energy versus making a decision as to when they should do what. So again, back to Cassandra's point with the baby. If there is a dad or an uncle or whoever who's around a baby, they are a man. They are always a man. But in that moment when that baby crying, they know that they need to lean into their quote unquote feminine energy and be nurturing towards that child. You have to read the room. So when you read the room, you then decide how you need to approach that particular issue. Again, to Cassandra's point, if you are a businesswoman, when you are in the conference room and they're about to do a vote and they're about to make a decision about your business or whatever that might look like, and you need to stand up and defend as why such and such and so and so, that's going to be you leaning into your masculine energy in that moment, reading the room and knowing that that is what's necessary in that moment. It's so funny. I talked about this yesterday on live. And I was saying that, New York women get a lot of flack for being so hard. I said, the city is hard. We have to read the room. Reading the room is I cannot walk through the street at night without having my keys that are going to be through my fingers.
Hello. I already know what
Somebody's
you were
face.
going. Where are you going with this. Yes,
right?
they're right here.
In New York, I need to work 2 and 3 jobs in order to live a decent lifestyle, which is going to toughen me. I'm
Shout
in
out,
New York.
Drew.
It's cold, right? So anyone, any human being who is logical and reasonable has to read the room and decide which energy makes sense in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah.
And so it's more about, uh, again, reading, but then also if you recognize that you're not reading it appropriately, right? So the baby's crying, you're like, I don't want to hold that thing. Then that's suddenly you got to do something up in here. You gotta do
Right.
something up in here because that response is not appropriate. I'm a dad. I'm a man. It's not my job to change diapers. The baby needs the diapers changed. So I'm gonna need you to lean into that nurturing side of
Right.
you to do the work. So again, reading the room.
And I want to
Facts.
I want to add to that for a moment to make it a little bit more systematic. So a week prior and the week of a woman's cycle is a really great opportunity for a man to be in his feminine because of her emotional heightened sense, and her need for emotional compassion is really present there. The 2 weeks after, like right after her cycle is complete, is when she is mostly she'll more likely be hella productive, super focused, more available, and that's when she would more so need the alpha version of you in a sense, and a beta version the week prior and the week of a woman's cycle. So we wanted to compartmentalize it in terms of a woman's like flow and how we change and shift. That might support men in that way, if that
Yeah, I
helps.
have
No,
a
that
quick
does.
question if it's okay.
Oh, definitely.
Cassandra, based on your research and all the work that you've done with your male clients, do men have a cycle, so to speak?
No, I don't
Mhm.
think so. I think men are way more even keel. I know that some people have mentioned that or they'll state it to some degree or whatever the case is. I personally have not necessarily found that. I find that if whatever their cycles might be around in terms of the men that I've worked with is more so trigger based. But I have heard that, I've heard rhetoric around that, but I've studied, I've looked at things, I've looked at neuropsychology, and I haven't found any data that states that, and I nor can I support that rhetoric in my own practice. So
Thank you.
I would say no. I don't know, Chris, how you feel. You're a man, so
No, I wouldn't agree. I would agree with that as well too. And I think it's also about like how he grew up around. If he grew up around a lot of women, then he probably took on a
there
lot
we go.
of that feminine
Yeah.
energy, feminine aspect, so it could appear that particular way. If he didn't grow up around a lot of strong
Mm-hmm.
men. But regardless, I definitely feel that men have to learn how to tap into feminine energy because if you, especially again, it goes back to the type of man you're trying to be. If you want the family aspect, if you want wife and kids,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely have to be family, or you definitely have to tap into your feminine energy a little bit. Otherwise, I feel like you're headed for a divorce, or I think you're going to have a lot of
Okay.
issues when it comes to your children. Because, like Jay-Z said, I got a daughter, got to get softer. It's like you got to learn how to be softer. Even my
Yep.
son, he's 22 months old at this particular point, and I learned that I'm very stern when it comes to people, and I could be very direct and straight to the point and facts over feelings when I talk to people. But with my son, I have to watch my tone.
Yeah.
I'll never put my hands on my son ever, but I noticed that if I go my voice, my tone past a certain threshold, it's going to make my son cry. And
Mhm.
so I have to learn how to, even when I'm frustrated, even when I'm disappointed, even when I'm angry or whatever it is, I have to learn how to tap into a different energy as opposed to my straight, just
Yeah.
demanding energy that I can be when I'm dealing with adults and males in particular. That's not going to work when it comes to my son. That's not going to work when I have a daughter in the future. And that definitely don't work when you got a
Yeah.
lady that you're trying to have a
Yeah.
family with, because that's going to rub her the wrong way, cause her to be isolated, cause her to go within. And like you said, that will create, that will not make her feel like she has a safe space to be feminine, which again will, to me, is the quickest path to either separation or divorce.
Allison, let me ask you too. In your practice with you working with women, what are you finding that they're complaining the most about when it comes to guys that you feel like guys can do better on
Great question.
While they're dating or once they're in a relationship?
dating?
Both.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
start with dating and then relationship.
Okay. So there's so many. The biggest. Oh gosh. Um, okay, so I'm gonna go with because I'm gonna go with, and I shared this underneath your post when you asked us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with disingenuous, saying that they want one thing, and then when they're held accountable to it and held to the fire, then it be something else. But I just want to explain what my experience is, and you know, you guys let me know what you think, especially Chris. So my opinion is that the gentlemen who say, yes, I want marriage, yes, I want family, yes, I want children, I believe that they do want it. I think the question that's left off the table is when. Like, what is your vision, or where do you need to be in your life in order for you to take those steps? I think if you ask a fifth grader, does he want a wife, he'll say yeah. And then it'll be eventually is the part that we're leaving off, right? And so I think that the timetable is the part. And I had a reel today that's going off right now, folks arguing about that timeline, and holding people accountable to timelines and being reasonable about timelines. That's one part that's left off, is the woman asking the gentleman, well, what is your vision, what do you need to accomplish before you do next thing, right? Secondly, what's left off from that conversation is, I want to be married, I want children. The question is with you, right? Like, that's the part that dudes be leaving off. So we talked about where the women are falling off, which is not asking about what's your vision in terms of a timeline. What do you need to accomplish first? Like, he want to be married, he want kids, he got a good job, and he's about 6 feet, so I'm happy, right? No, you need to ask more. But then the other side of it, the guys are leaving off, I want to commit a relationship, I want marriage, I want children, but we'll see whether or not that's with you. That's the part that they're not saying, and that's the part I think that they should say. So there is a disingenuousness, if that's a word,
Yes.
in the dating phase. Chris, I want to hear from you. I see a lot of movement, and then Cassandra, what are your thoughts around that?
I think that that's right on point. That's why I think that we got to do a better job of vetting in the beginning. And honestly, I think that some men use that as an excuse for just dealing with a woman, but knowing that I don't see you as a wife and I don't see you as a mother. That's why I tell people, just because a man will have sex with you, just because I'm dating with you, a man will put up with you for a little bit, a man will even live with you for a little bit. But
Ooh,
unless he sees you as that wife and
child.
that mother, he's not about to
Ooh,
He's not about to
child.
commit wholeheartedly and give you his heart. But a man, when he really sees you as that wife and that mother, shit, he wants to do that shit right away. I'm not even gonna cap. He wants to have some babies right away. He wants to lock you down right away, keep you away from other men right away. So yeah, if a man's constantly procrastinating, or if a man doesn't give you at least like a standard. I remember when me and my son's mom was together, a big thing was for me. She was like, I want to get married. And I was like, I'm definitely down with getting married, but I think that you definitely got to go to therapy and handle your daddy issues, because you project a lot of that onto me, and we got to just deal with that. And she started going to therapy. So in my eyes, I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Now, again, she ended up wanting to separate, but nonetheless, but that was the only thing that was holding me back, was just like, all right, I need this. I had a weight, honestly. Not necessarily a requirement, but a desire to just not let yourself go. Now, I understand things happen, your body change and all that stuff, but I can't just be with somebody that's just going to just let themselves go. Like, now, again, you have a baby, that's completely different and all that. But again, it's not letting yourself go. But I recognize you're going to increase your weight once you have a kid. Um, but if you can just have a list of things that you know that is holding you back from getting married, and if you see her working on those things, then you should actually move forward with that. Now, if you do, if a guy gives you a list of these things and you're working on it and he still bullshits, or he just keeps adding stuff to the list,
Yeah.
then I think that that is a huge red flag. But I think you can tell those red flags early. And I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier with spending time actually vetting this person before you get sexually attached to this person. Because once you get sexually attached, then them cognitive biases in your mind is going to kick in, and you're not about to be thinking logical. You're not about to be actually evaluating the situation clearly. And then the liking, loving tendency is actually going to kick in, which means we're going to distort everything, every red flag, we're going to distort into a green flag. We're going to find a
Right.
reason why all the red flags that we would normally, when we wasn't sexually aroused with this person, we would immediately be turned off. We're going to justify why it's okay for us to still be attached with this person, knowing damn well that if our friend was going through this situation, we would tell them, oh, you should leave. You shouldn't deal with that. You shouldn't, hell no, you deserve better than that. But because we're sexually attached, we don't have the same standards anymore.
Well
Totally.
said.
Yeah. So what I would say is that, I think that because I've had time to think, so y'all don't be too impressed with my response because I had time to think. So I feel like it's a battle between two scriptures, which is it's not good for man to be alone, and a man being able to identify and say, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, right? So I think that what happens in the context of relationships and dating is that a man is feeling like, yo, it's not good for me to be alone. I want to be with her. I like her. I feel an attachment to her. I feel connected to her. I want this to win. I want this to work. I want it to be her. I want this to be the right one. But when he looks at her, he is not feeling that epiphany that Adam felt, which is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. Like, I recognize you. You are my wife. And I think that that's what a lot of men are longing for, especially when men are curious. I think one of the biggest curiosities that most men have is, how do I know? Dude, how did you know when you found the one? What was it? And the problem with that question that I find is that it varies, like by far and large. I'm talking about a man could be like, oh, we was eating popcorn and the way she snorted, and I knew she was the one. We've been married for 21 years ever since. She was trying to open up, this is literal stories. She was opening up a can of a jar of pickles, and she stuck her tongue out when she was trying to do it. She looked so cute. I knew she was my wife, right? And so guys are like trying to figure out when, man, they're looking for that epiphany, that moment when their eyes are open and they're like, oh my God, she's my wife. This is it. So I think one of the things that's happening to women who are dating is that a man is not knowing how he's supposed to know when she's the one. He's waiting for that pull, for that epiphany. And she's feeling like, okay, what exactly is the issue? Like, logically speaking. And those two things are very different. So he's with her, he's spending time with her because it's not good for man to be alone. But he hasn't been able to identify her as wife because he hasn't had that revelation that this is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. And I'm going to call her my woman because I know she came from me. So they need both of them. So I feel like timelines do work. And, you know, I don't think it should take a man 2 years plus to figure it out. I don't.
Right. And I just want to clarify before the folks, before you chop this up for a clip and they try to get in our asses, let me just say, when we say that, when women are saying that, or people in the professional space are saying that it doesn't take 2 years to decide, we're not talking about it doesn't take 2 years to ask for your future wife's hand in marriage. We said decide. Decide. So I've heard stories of men deciding that this woman is going to be my wife in 2 weeks, in 2 months. He didn't actually get down on one knee.
Yeah.
He didn't go buy the expensive ring 2 weeks in, but he decided she is the
That's
one
it.
for me. So let me continue to see her just so I can feel more confident. Let me talk to my mom. Let me gather more, because I know it, but I can't be a fool. So let me
that part.
gather more information over the next year, over the next 2 years. Then I'll drop down on one knee over the next 3 years. When men say they know, they don't actually do anything with it just yet. They just know. And then an intelligent man is going to collect information over time and then be solid in that decision and then move forward.
Fact.
Correct.
And I think a lot of times men just want a fully developed woman. Now, I do agree, it says in the Bible, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So that presupposes that a woman is a wife when you actually meet her. But I think men misconstrue that as far as thinking that she got to be fully developed with all the skills that she will ever have as a wife. And I don't think that men realize that you grow together. Just like you're not the man that you will be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the line. The same thing when it comes to the wife. And I think a man also run away from the responsibility of cultivating certain aspects in their particular woman, getting her training, putting her around certain women that can help bring out certain qualities in her, exposing her to certain things that can help those women qualities or those wife qualities in her. And I think that will help a lot of men when it comes to having that particular wife. But if you just thinking that I just got to meet her and she got to know everything that I like and she got to just know how to just treat me out the gate and all these other things, I think we should have non-negotiables, and we should have a small list of things where I'm like, okay, I can see that being my wife. Maybe how she treats people. Maybe she's loyal. Maybe how she communicates with me. Maybe how she's in tune with me. Maybe how she just prioritizes wanting to be a mother and a wife over work or just whatever it is. But a lot of times they got this long list, and I think we just use that as an excuse to eliminate women as opposed to really using that list to want to qualify a woman.
And sometimes, really and truly, guys be around women and they know he knows deep down inside, I'm not right for her. She could be and she should be doing better than me. And you know what I'm saying? And they're confronted with that, and so they'll stall on a commitment because they don't want her to find out who the hell he really is. And vice versa. I mean, just and it doesn't have to even be real. It could be his interpretation of himself,
Yes.
right? But anytime somebody's in a dynamic where they feel like they're not good enough, that's enough of a reason to walk away. Or anybody who reveals to you that they feel like they don't know why you're with them, you need to walk away.
See,
Why?
I've said that and I got cursed out, Cassandra,
Why?
because it's no, because if you love him, then you should nurture him and support him and showing him why
Into what?
he is the guy that you know that he is. No,
You're not
no,
about
no.
to change nobody. I have
Right.
to even tell women in college this. We did an event where it was this group called Women of Color, and they had like 70 some girls, and I brought like 5 guys, and we just kind of talked to. We were the only guys allowed, and we talked to all these women. That was one of the main points. You're not about to change a nigga. A nigga got to want to do it for
Yeah.
himself, and if he doesn't want to do it for himself, you are wasting time, energy, and money thinking that you about to motivate this dude. You're gonna look up 5 years later and just regret, as opposed to if a man isn't intrinsically motivated to do it himself, or if a woman isn't intrinsically motivated to do it themselves, it's over. Now, when I said you want to help a woman cultivate certain things, it's because she has the quality already where she wants to learn. She's coachable, she's teachable, she has a
Yes.
receiving spirit. But if she's closed off and she's rejecting all the stuff that you're trying to do and she's never trying to put in the work, then no, you're just going to, again, waste 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of your life and then look up and just be mad as hell, resentful, and
Yes.
regret all the money and
100%.
energy that you put into it. When again, it's really our fault because we didn't take the time to properly vet to see, is this person even coachable? Is this person even trying to grow? Is this person even trying to get over
Right.
their feeling of I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy, my low self-esteem, my low self-worth? Because nobody can outperform their self-image. And the strongest force in the human personality is to remain consistent with how it defines itself. So if I define
Yeah.
myself that this is my standard or this is what I deserve in life, unless I want to change that myself, I'm always going to find situations to validate, to make that story in my head true. If I don't want to change that for myself, there's nothing that you can do about it. Everything that you do about it would just be temporary.
That part. Yeah, I don't know why they would chew you out, Allison, because at the end of the day, even if you were going to cultivate a man into according to whom and according to what? And how do you know that how do you know that you've arrived there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you benchmark that? How do you know when you've succeeded? How do you know that it's going to stick?
This is the argument. The argument is this gentleman doesn't feel like he's good enough for his girlfriend. He doesn't make enough money. He is not seen as classically handsome. She's beautiful. She makes so much more money. And so he doesn't feel like he's worthy. But if you really loved him, what you would do is you would get him on a meal plan and you would sign him up for the gym so that he can get fit. You would fix up his resume and you would get on Indeed so that he can get the position so he can make more money. So instead of you throwing away what you believe is a good thing just because they don't believe it, instead you should work with them to help them to get to the position that they feel is now worthy of you. That was the
And
For how long?
that argument, that's coming from men or women?
it was women.
For how long though? Did they give like a idea of like how long you should try? Is that just in like a forever type thing, or if I do that for 3 months?
I think the logic is that once you show him that you're trying to help him, he's going to just follow along on the path and he'll execute.
That sounds like being
That's
mommy.
wishful thinking.
That sounds motherly to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's a reel that just came out too that talked about a man dating a woman at his lowest and why you don't want to do that, because you will always be a reflection of him at his lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly, because I do believe that together, if there's a difference between charity and teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're working on something because the both of us are trying to figure things out, we're trying to figure this thing out together, that's one thing, right? It's another thing when somebody is damn near Mary Poppins to you and you're one of the runty little kids with boogers down your nose and you're looking for her to snap her fingers and the whole room just gets cleaned up and your whole life magically comes together. You know what I'm saying? Mary Poppins, Nanny McPhee, they all do the same thing. They take their umbrella and they leave. These relationships, they don't last. They're not built to be staying together. They become a lesson, not a blessing. You know what I'm saying? And people move on. So
You judge a tree based on the fruit that it bears. And if you don't see a
Yeah,
man trying to bear fruit of, now, if I'm trying to do this, you see that I got low self esteem in this area, but you see me actively putting work towards these particular areas, then that's different. Then, okay, well, I'm gonna help you in this area. I'm gonna help you in because I see you trying. I'm seeing the fruit of you trying yourself. But if he is literally not giving no effort or she is literally not giving any effort, and you just think that, oh, I'm gonna just start giving all this effort and then it's gonna rub off on them. That's wishful thinking. And I think that's gonna lead to regret and resentfulness. And then also that could lead to when you do meet the right person in the future, you're not gonna want to do those behaviors because you're gonna be thinking about, well, when I tried to help this person in the past, he didn't want to do nothing and all these other. And so that's gonna set you up for failure and that's gonna make you treat the person in the future less than how you actually treated the person in your past.
right.
Yes.
Tell us in the comments, y'all, what y'all think. If somebody's feeling like they're not worthy, if somebody's feeling like you too good for them, do you think that you're supposed to support them and get them to the point where they do feel worthy? Do you feel like you should throw that one back in the water? Do you feel like, you know what I'm saying? What do you, somebody said delulu-ness. Right. Like, let me know what you guys think in the comments because I'm just trying to feel the room because that just seems very odd, odd to me. I remember one of the last workshops that I was at, a woman mentioned that she was with this guy and he felt like she was so beautiful. He felt like he wasn't good enough for her. Somebody said back in the water. Yeah, he wasn't good enough for her. She was shocked that he cheated on her. And she was like, if you felt that you already weren't good enough for me, why not just do better and then go ahead and cheat on me on top of that?
That's because he's going to self-sabotage. If he don't feel good enough, that's what I'm saying. Like you're going to have a whole type of other issues that come along with that because I gotta do something to fit the narrative, which means if I don't feel good enough for you, unconsciously I'm going to do something to ruin it.
Right.
Yes.
See, y'all have to join the Love Wins workshop. We have the link in our bios to have deeper discussions like this because the reality is this is that we want to learn how to vet the partner that we want to be attached to and connected to, I should say, right? And I don't think a lot of people know what vetting means or how it looks and what it can look like. I don't think a lot of people know how to have conversations without sounding like you're on an interview, right? You don't want to ask these questions directly, right? Like, did you cheat on somebody? Like, just getting weird. And how much money do you have in your bank account, right? Like, we don't want to just be asking these weird questions just out loud. And so people are just so riddled with fear that we don't know how to look at things through a lens of like loving eyes and being genuinely curious to get to know a person. We're just trying to see how likely is it that I'm going to get hurt by this person,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to beat the bomb, so to speak. I want to be able to come out of this unscathed if I need to. So let me just go ahead and retrieve as much data as I can. But then it's like you're being weird about it, right? So if you guys want to learn more about dating, if you guys want to learn more about healing, if you guys want to learn more about feminine masculine energy, click the link in any one of our bios to go ahead and get your tickets, okay? Because it's an affordable workshop. We're all going to be there, and one more special facilitator, Imani Tut. She's amazing. She gives a lot of spiritual perspective. It's going to be on December 12th, y'all. So y'all make sure you click the link in the bio. Any
And the
other?
reason why y'all want to attend is because the older we get, the less time we actually have to just recover from relationships. Like time is extremely valuable. It's the most luxury thing that we actually have. So we don't got time to just give 2 years to somebody and then, oh, it didn't work out. Give 5 years to somebody, it didn't work out. Give 10 years to somebody, it didn't work out. So we got to learn these things, one about ourselves and then also about being able to vet the person that we're actually with. So again, we don't spend 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, whatever it is, just away. And then it's going to take longer time than that because then you got to detox from that person. Then you got to heal from that person before you're actually able to find somebody else. So time is limited. It's the most valuable thing that we have. So click the link in the bio, check us out, and we hope to see y'all at that workshop. And again, we're going to be live on Monday and the following Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be all four of us chopping it up just like we did today. So if y'all find value in this conversation, y'all going to love the workshop and love the other lives. Allison, I don't know if you had anything else to add as well.
No, because it's 7:48 and I'm falling asleep, but I got more fire. I got more fire. So what they need to do, they need to join us at the Love Wins workshop where we're going to be delivering all of these actionable next steps as to how you can build a healthy relationship that leads to, if it's marriage, family, generational wealth. So, we giving y'all the gems here, but if you're really looking to take it to the next level, if you're looking for true strategy on how you can improve your current relationship or build the relationship that you desire, you need to invest in yourself. How much this thing costs, Cassandra? Come on, it's
I think
pennies.
it's
How
like
much?
$35.
$35. Come on now. If you can't invest $35, then you need to go back to work and don't be worried about no man and no woman. Right?
Facts.
America. Click the link. Love Wins Virtual Workshop, December the 12th. When I,
Hey, no, facts. You speaking that truth.
Let
Well,
me say something real quick before we get off. Yo, I be on Allison's lives or just watching your videos out, and yo, you be cracking me up. I don't know what question it was for Ask Allison or what it was, but somebody asked you a question, and you just looked right into the camera. You were like, no. That was just like the answer. There was like no very little explanation. I was dying. I was rolling. Like, yo, you are so direct.
no. And us as professionals in this space, we feel like we need to give all of these because we want them to win. We want them to execute. Right. So I'm like, okay, let me paint this picture so you can grab it. But sometimes some folks just need a no, a hell no.
Hell no.
Oh no. And that really is enough in the hopes that it gets them to do the thing or not do the thing, depending on it all, right?
Absolutely.
So, hey, the Bible tells us that the wounds of a friend can be trusted. So even though that might sting a little bit, her directness, like, you can trust that. The enemy is going to multiply kisses and just tell you what you want to hear all the time.
Listen,
but this
y'all,
live...
it is cuffing season. You need to be at the Love Wins workshop, because at the end of the day, you would not be on this live if you didn't need to be on this live. You need to be at the workshop because we're going to give you the things that your mom and your daddy didn't know to give you because they didn't have it to give. We're going to be giving it to you because you are backed by over 20, 30, 40 years worth of experience of working with couples, individuals, men, women, to make sure that you are able to be in a relationship that not only lasts, but that is fruitful, bearing fruit for you, in you, and through you. That's why we're going to be at the Love Wins workshop, because we're going to be breaking down couples. We're going to be breaking down the individual experience. We're going to be breaking down neurologically what's going on for you, emotionally what's going on with you, spiritually what's going on with you. Why? Because we believe in an integrated being. That is what we're talking about as professionals when we talk about wholeness. There is a mental, there is an emotional, there is a spiritual component. Yes, I'm shading your mama and your daddy, okay, because they didn't have it to give. How many of y'all? I'm Caribbean. My parents did not do a good job talking to me about love. They just told me to put my nose in the books, and that wasn't enough, right? And at the end of the day, this is why I'm here, because I started to study these things, and we all here imagine a world that our children's children have options. We imagine a world where our children's children can enjoy the process of dating without the dramatics and all the trauma. So click the link in our bios. We want to see you there. We're also going to see you on the live next week. Chris, if you have anything else, of course, I don't want to be the last voice, but I just wanted to stress that y'all need to be there.
No, this was fire, though. I appreciate y'all taking the time. Allison, Cassandra, y'all definitely killed this thing. So look for us Monday, 6 o'clock, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then December 12th at 7 o'clock at the Love Wins Workshop. If you click the tickets or click the link in the bio and actually get your tickets, be there or be square. But y'all have a prosperous night, man, and I look forward to talking to y'all again.
All right, ciao, y'all.
Peace.